The Water Quality Management Committee meeting Thursday, August 29th at 7:30 p.m. at the School Administration Building. Welcome to work. We have a guest tonight, the Planning Board's delegate, who's been very diligent about coming. And I'm happy to report the Planning Board heard a presentation of our CWMP at the meeting before last, and voted a resolution in support of it. We thank you. And your board.
The committee's done a great job.
Thank you. Number one, presentation and discussion on proposed flow neutral bylaw draft. For the information of our nationwide television audience, the town meeting in November, we hope will have several items from this committee, through this committee to the selectmen and the planning board, that will include different ways of making the cost of any potential sewering cheaper for the people who have to pay the bills. Another bylaw that may address the question of what do you do if somebody has an echo toilet that's been proven to be effective at nitrogen removal. How could they be exempted from hooking up to a sewer in that event? And the third piece is a flow neutral bylaw, which is something that would be required if the town's going to obtain 0% financing for any of these projects. So tonight's main project with this committee is to go through our drafts of those proposals and then pass them on to the selectmen. So the first one is the flow neutral draft bylaw, which is worked on by a small study group here of John Waterbury and Steve Layton. And who wants to speak on it?
I'll walk us through. So this has sort of evolved from a process that George Heufelder and I started a number of years ago. And globally we're calling the nutrient management bylaw. And we sort of had tended to develop it as a townwide thing, which was going to basically declare the entire town a nitrogen sensitive area. And as we sat down with this go around, we decided that that approach was way beyond the scope that we wanted to take on now. And so we decided to limit ourselves just to the areas that have sewers in town. And then we further decided the next step was that instead of just talking about our immediate CWMP, which is the Little Pond watershed, that it would make sense to combine all of the areas which are under the influence of and have town sewers. So this bylaw is meant to incorporate the main village of Falmouth and Woods Hole, the new Silver Beach area, and the new service area that will be in the Little Pond watershed. And then basically the principles of it are, the main feature is that one gets to keep the number of bedrooms and flow that you have. So whatever you've got at the moment, your grandfathered with. And then we started to look at we decided that in every lot smaller than 1 acre, real estate acre of 40,000 square feet, that people would be allowed to upgrade those properties to 4 bedrooms by right. And that in lots of larger than 40,000 square feet, one would be able to have a bedroom for every 10,000 square feet of lot size by right. In multiple family residence, again, you get to keep what you've got, and the allowance for both new and existing multifamily structures would be 1 bedroom for every 10,000 square feet. And in non-residential properties, you again would get to keep the flow that you have, but we would also allow you to increase that flow by 10% by right without having to get a variance. And then new non-residential properties would be allocated 110 gallons per every 10,000 square feet of lot size by right, and then additional flow would have to be gotten through variance. And then the variance procedure, there are basically 2 conditions in the variance procedure. If one wanted fifth bedroom or flow in a non-residential thing in excess of what we allow by right. First, the water superintendent, the wastewater superintendent has to verify through the selectmen that capacity is available. And secondly, the applicant must be able to demonstrate that they can cite a Title V system of the size of the request that they're making. So for example, if they wanted a fifth bedroom, to be able to cite a 5-bedroom design on their parcel without significant variances. And that's sort of the basis of what it is. We think it's an extremely equitable approach to this. One of the questions we had when we started this was whether we had set a precedent in New Silver Beach of allowing everyone 3 bedrooms. And we decided here to propose 4. And the rationale for that was that when we looked at the actual sewer water rates, water allocations in the sewer and service areas, there was very little difference between flow between a 3 and a 4-bedroom house. And there was a big jump when you went to 5 bedrooms. So that was sort of the rationale behind that. Now, I think that's something we may want to think about as we get this reviewed by the planning board and the boards of health. One of the things that we may want to think about is, as we begin to have to deal with the upper watersheds, and there are areas which we probably will never sewer, and we have to get more nitrogen out of those areas, do we want to be able to ask those people to put in alternative systems for the 4th bedroom, or do we have to wait until it's the 5th bedroom? And I think that's just something we need to think about a little bit as we proceed. But basically, I think we have now. Sia, do you want to just chat about the couple of changes we've made tonight?
Rather than changes, maybe you could just walk through section by section, because most people, certainly on television, and most people in the room haven't walked through it. Because the changes are going to make no sense to anybody else. Okay.
Yeah, there's just one thing missing that the outside audience might want, which I haven't heard, which is the overall principle reasoning why the state requires this. Otherwise, people would be thinking, why are we doing this at all?
Right.
The point is that the 0% loan represents a subsidy of Falmouth's new sewer system by the state. And the state doesn't want us to then say, oh, now we have a sewer, we can do unlimited construction and unlimited wastewater, and then relatively quickly make that new sewer system obsolete. So the point is to not let the flow get bigger, but also to not have anyone any worse off than they are now, so that they can have whatever, in terms of bedrooms and flow, whatever the existing Title V regulations would allow, they'll still have.
Right, and that's the purpose. And so the first section of the bylaw is a purpose section that basically states what Steve has said, which is we have limited treatment and disposal capacities, and therefore to manage wastewater flow and maintain a flow neutral go forward position, we have a flow neutral bylaw proposed. The second section is mandatory sewer connection and elimination of septic systems in the sewer service area. So it's stating that if you're in the sewer service area, you're required to connect to the sewer. And then decommission your septic system in accordance with standards. I'm gonna walk through these. Do you want to take questions as we go?
On this particular one, I just want to remind everybody that we may be going for modification of section 180-6, which will allow some people to, and what would be required to modify this? Would it automatically, just?
But we're not gonna talk about modifying.
No.
She hasn't even laid it out.
I know. It's just an issue
It
that's
is
gonna come up.
We can just say
detailed in
it's number
chapter,
3 on the agenda.
It's an article on the books already, town bylaw.
that's right.
Yeah.
We're not, you don't, this is just referring to it so that
Yeah,
people know
okay.
where it is.
Fine, okay.
Right, and then, we have a way to determine what the flow is. So we have 3 provisions, and 310 CMR is Title V. So if people want to determine, for the purposes of determining flow in those circumstances where flow needs to be determined, we've set out Title V, or water meter data provided by the Department of Public Works, or any other method acceptable to Mass DEP. We try to be as broad as possible to allow flow to be determined by a variety of acceptable ways. I mean, that was really one of the goals going into this, to allow flexibility in how people approach answering the questions they need to. And then we state this is where it's codified, what John said. Any structure legally in existence as of January 1st, 2014, regardless of their flow, may maintain that flow or a number of bedrooms. And then we give a definition of where bedroom, how you define bedroom, is by Title V. And we also have added that the assessor's records are presumed accurate for the number of bedrooms. So we're giving people guidance as to what a bedroom is by Title V definition, where they can likely find what the number of bedrooms is for their property, and how to determine flow, and that's section 18039. The next section is 18040, which specifies that the wastewater superintendent is the person, or that's where the responsibility for notifying the Board of Selectmen of available capacity comes from. So we have a system in place for monitoring capacity. And then we come to the sections on if you want to modify your existing property. So we have a provision for, you get the flow you get, or you get the flow that you currently have, but then the question comes up, what can you do in addition to what you're already doing? And what we are allowing is up to 4 bedrooms on an acre or less. So if you have a house in this area, and however many bedrooms you have now, you're allowed to go up to 4. If you are on a building acre or less. In multifamily, and if you have more than an acre, then you get a bedroom for 10,000 square feet. In multifamily, you get a bedroom for 10,000 square feet. In non-residential, you get 110 gallons per 10,000 square feet. And that is true for existing development or new construction. So this area, the little pond sewer area, is essentially a build-out. But there are a few parcels, and so the idea is if you're an acre or less, you get 4 bedrooms, or 110 gallons per 10,000 square feet. So those are the provisions for modifications to existing structures or new construction. And then the final section, well, I'd say the final section in terms of what we're allowing people to do and not to do has to do with the variance procedure. So if you would like an extra bedroom or you'd like additional flow beyond what we've granted, there are 2 requirements. One is that there sufficient capacity exists, and that's determined by the wastewater superintendent. And the other is the Board of Health finds and refers that you can cite a Title V system for the flow you are asking for above what's granted by right, or the Board of Selectmen find that relief can be granted without substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the bylaw. And it allows the selectmen to develop other planning and policy guidelines for granting their variances. We allow for rebuilding because of casualty or loss. That's a fairly standard procedure. We make a provision for the Board of Selectmen. I'm on 18044 now. We have a provision for the selectmen to codify water conservation methods and measures. that this would then be applied in the sewer service area. So we make that available to them without telling them what it is. And the transferability is so that nobody can buy a lot and transfer the number of bedrooms to a different lot. That's 18045. Severability, self-explanatory, and a section on if there are violations. We tie this to the town bylaw on, I can't remember what it's called. There's the
Non-criminal.
thank you, the non-criminal offenses section of the bylaw. And there it is.
For the TV audience and everyone else, if you're in Mary Vista in the Heights right now, you may have 1 bedroom, you may have 2 bedrooms, you may have 3 bedrooms, you may have 4 bedrooms. In all those cases, you can keep what you have and you can expand up to 4. If the town meeting and the voters and everything else comes into place and the sewer system actually gets built in that area. So you're getting more than you probably could get now if you have a house in that area, given the size of the lots and the current state of the law. So it's a clear benefit to the folks who are in the sewer service area. And you know, to be fair, they're going to be paying something, but they're also getting something, and that should be understood right away as one of the purposes of writing it the way this committee is proposing. Steve?
I just want to make one thing clear also to the audience, where we're talking about to show that you can build a Title V system. No one is saying that you actually build a Title V system. In fact, you're not allowed to. It's just a technical exercise to show that you could have put one there. The Title V would allow one on your lot. And that's another way that we're saying that things will not be any worse than they are now.
Matt?
I was unclear about that. Thank you, Steve, for clarifying.
Anybody else?
I have 2 points. One, I want to reiterate what I said a minute ago, that we will be probably modifying 180.6, and would this require, if we did that, as we go forward, would this require any change in the wording? I don't know the answer to that.
No, it wouldn't.
Probably
Because-
wouldn't, because 180.6 says you have to connect. And this would say that certain people will have a right not to connect if the change occurs.
Yeah, we would just add language to exclude.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. The second point, I just want to ask somebody, about, it's on the second page, 18041, I guess it is. Number 3, non-residential development, existing development. Suppose that, as I think may be the case in many cases, that a lot as small as 1 acre may very well have many more than 4 bedrooms on it today. And if you transfer that to, for example, I can say we have 1 acre of land, we are authorized for 8 bedrooms. The house is built, authorized for 8 bedrooms. I don't know how we got it, but we did. In any case, if someone in the area has a house like that has a lot of bedrooms in it, and is transferred to a commercial use, would they get, I can't tell from this whether they get only the allowed amount, or they get the amount they started with?
They get the flow they have now plus 10% above that.
Is that what they get? Is that,
Right.
it says 10% above that permitted as of January 1, 2004 by C.
Right.
That would suggest permitted by 310 CMR 15, which suggests that only that which was legal at that time.
Oh.
Or
Well, he's getting that, which is probably a good point. That the actual measured flow plus 10%, or the Title V permitted flow plus 10%.
We talked about this at a meeting, and somebody said, don't worry about it, this will never happen. So
Well,
I'm sort of glad you brought it up.
I think what happens is someone's have to go in for land use change. If you're not commercial, you're following the commercial. If you're residential, you're following, this only purports to whatever land use and zoning allows. I guess if it's a multiple purpose parcel, then people have to scratch their heads and come up and see. I mean, 8 bedrooms, 220 gallons per bedroom, one's gonna give you that much flow.
But Wynn is correct. The law, this proposed law does not speak to new non-residential development on an old residential lot. It talks about a vacant lot.
But, and there aren't many of those, but there may be a couple.
I think you'll find there more than you think.
In the sewer service area.
In this particular sewer service area, that's true.
Well, that's all we're talking about, right?
Right now, yes, that's true.
So we,
That's right.
we did talk about this, and the change that we made, because we are talking in 3A, second sentence, modifications or changes of use. So what we were trying to say there is, if you've got an existing use and you modify it or change it, that increases the flow more than that allowed by right in 3A. So the question that I think you're asking is, when we say above that permitted as of January 1st by 310 CMR 15, if you have an 8-bedroom house, is it fair to say that that's been permitted by 310 CMR 15?
That's exactly the point, yeah.
That's a good question.
That's exactly his question, and I think it's a good one.
And I'm not sure what the building department rules are on that. In other words, if you tear something down and it's considered new construction, I think that you're required to use the rules for new construction.
Yeah, but this is before you've torn it down. Let's say, if you have a
But he's brought up an interesting point, because at the point you tear it down, does it become a vacant lot?
no,
No, I don't think so.
it doesn't.
No.
There's
They thought of that.
They thought of that. So I might, given, just for purposes of clarification, we have these definitions for wastewater flow shall be determined in accordance with, and this is 18039. We might want to just say, instead of by 310 CMR, refer to by the methods outlined in 18039.
That's always.
Which
Flow
includes
that you're currently-
water meter data
Water
provided
flow,
by the,
exactly.
that's what I think we wanted, that's a good
Good catch.
an
Good
excellent catch.
Okay.
The third question is a general question I would just like to ask, whether anyone has thought to ask this question. If we put this into effect, could you estimate what total increase in flow could arise over the years as a result of this?
Yes,
You do?
I have an answer for that.
Okay.
I'm still trying to write this other thing, so just give me 18039. So, the way the flow has been determined in the sewer service area is by parcel. And this is true if you look at Oyster Pond, if you look at the old CWMP, if you look at the way this is done all over the Cape and all over the state. A parcel, a dwelling unit, has a particular flow. And that is determined by occupancy and by the demographic of the area. In the lower Little Pond sewer service area, there have been a number of studies that show flows, in low numbers. For the purposes of determining the wastewater flow for engineering purposes, the number is 150 gallons per parcel per day. And so whether it's a 3-bedroom parcel house or a 4-bedroom house, the average for that area is 150 gallons per parcel. And that is based on a planning number from a document, of an engineering document called TR-16, that's 70 gallons per person, and an occupancy rate based on the town average of 2.4 people. The average in this area happens to be 1.9. So that 150 gallons per day is a larger number than the occupancy. So it is highly unlikely that this is going to increase flow.
We have a cap on it as 0.26. Each sewer service area has a flow cap that can't be exceeded.
Right.
And we're not expecting to exceed it, but if for some reason powers to be used it all up, you can't exceed. .26.
And that's why for any kind of a variance, everything is based on determination that capacity exists. And so the cap is there, and that's why this is a flow neutral bylaw, because you can't exceed the cap.
And the cap in 18039 doesn't provide different ways of calculating how much flow you can have, or is the cap still there, no matter what?
For the additional flow, for the additional parcel, you can't exceed the cap.
No matter what you do, no matter how many
what you do.
bedrooms you have, no matter any of that. Okay.
Right.
And if you do exceed the cap, then you have to have a variance.
Yeah. To exceed the cap,
And you
we're
can't
talking about a
even be
major.
granted a variance if you exceed the cap. There is no exceeding the cap.
She's talking about, you're talking about individual house, you're talking about the whole system.
Yes.
Yes.
There's a difference in what you're
Oh,
talking
yes,
about.
yes, okay, I see, okay, so some people could exceed,
Individually.
Individually, they could
If 5 or
exceed the
6
amount.
bedrooms,
but the total area can't exceed that overall cap.
right.
That's
I see.
right.
Okay, that's interesting.
Got it.
There's also the issue that some people worry about, that if people get worried about the overall cap, that you create a building room to get in before the cap is reached. But other people figure that's not gonna happen.
Not at the prices
I have
of
no
lots
idea.
in this area.
I don't
I
make
think
a
we're safe.
business of predicting the future.
I think we're safe.
Okay.
Okay, the process is gonna be, we'll discuss these at this meeting, take input, come back with a final copy 1 week from today. That will go to the selectmen and hopefully to the warrant the day after, which is the day the warrant closes. So we don't need to take a vote, but if there's any other comments, let's have them now, because.
Do you want to take a vote rather than we go over everything next week?
Well, all right.
I mean, I just.
There's no vote on the agenda, so.
Oh,
I
then
think
it's up to you.
we're gonna operate by consensus on this. So, any further comments on this draft before we move on to the next one? Sure.
Good job.
Okay. Next one is presentation and discussion on proposed special legislation article. Ron and Virginia were the two subcommittee, study group people on this, and they're not here. I sat in on it, and Sia sat in on it, and I'll give a quick summary of what is in it. Everybody have a copy of it?
You have an extra?
I don't.
I think there's
Maybe one before.
Did you send it to us here?
Yeah, it's my fault for not putting it on.
I can go, why don't I
Let me
go
use
make
that
a
and I'll
copy?
share with Lynn.
You could also go make a copy.
Do you need one too? Or, I mean, I can move
We need
it.
any more?
No, that's all right. I can get it on here if I can.
You want a copy?
I'm fine.
Okay. So this is by way of special legislation, which means the town meeting has to vote to ask its legislators to file a bill on behalf of the town that, if passed into law, becomes a special act that only affects the town of Falmouth. And what we're asking for in this is, it's an act regulating sewer surveys, area betterment assessments in the town of Falmouth. And it does 3 things. First is, notwithstanding any general or special law to the contrary, the town of Falmouth may assess and collect interest on an unpaid balance of a sewer betterment assessment at a rate equal to the net rate of interest chargeable to the town for the project to which this assessment relates. What that means is, if we borrow money at 0%, the selectmen could charge 0% interest on the betterment to the homeowners. Current state law doesn't allow for that. Current state law says you have 2 choices, towns. You can charge 5%, or you
Or
can charge
2%.
2% above whatever interest rate you're borrowing it at. Those are your 2 choices. So this gives Falmouth a 3rd choice, which would be more advantageous for the homeowner, and that's why we're doing it. So that's one. The next one is, notwithstanding any general or special act of contrary, the town of Falmouth may apportion all sewer assessments or unpaid balances of assessments over a period not to exceed 30 years. Current law says 20 years. If you do it over 30 years, the annual payment is less. We want to make it less because it's easier on the homeowner. Next one is to structure the payments so that the amount payable in the several years for principal and interest combined are as nearly equal as practical. Kind of like your home mortgage. You pay the same amount every month. Under current state law, that's not permissible. Current state law says you pay a principal amount and the interest, and the next year the interest is a little less, and by the end, the interest is a lot less because you paid off a lot of the principal, but the amount changes every year. That's inconvenient and hard to count on for people, and so this would make it the same payment for the entire payment period, hopefully 30 years. It goes on to say, these equal payments may be further apportioned and collected by the town on quarterly tax bills at the option of the town. In other words, the current state law says you have to pay once a year. This would say you could pay each quarter. Each time you get a quarterly tax bill, you pay a quarterly assessment bill. Once again, it gives the homeowner the ability to spread it out. Makes it easier on the homeowner. The last one is the owner of the land assessed may pay the total principal amount remaining without a prepayment penalty. None of us were quite sure why this was in every other home rule petition we saw, but it was, so we figured we should have it too. There may be something in the state law that says you can't do that. We'd like to be able to do that.
Sounds like a bank loan.
Yeah, maybe there's a penalty or.
So, thank, Ron was actually very helpful in this. I'm sorry he's not here to take a bow, but he's watching us on our nationwide TV audience. But he did some homework and dug up every home rule petition on this subject for the last 10 years. And so we had 3 or 4 or 5 to pick from. And we basically adopted language that we knew the legislature would like as they did it before. So that's what this one's about.
Clarifying question.
Comments and questions?
And I'm sorry I didn't catch this before, but we brought it up, the eco-toilet one. This seems to be amending section 1A that says you can't amend section 1A if and when the town adopts it. It's in its entirety. Near the end of those 10 sections, I think it says you're allowed to increase the betterment period up to 50 years.
Where's 1A now?
Yeah, I've counted one I said.
Well, it's within 1A, it's
We haven't adopted 1A yet, right?
no, I don't know if this precludes us from adopting.
Well, when we get to 1A in that, this is in yours, right?
This is 1A,
Okay,
and I think somewhere toward the end of it, they talk about betterments. It's 1G, I think.
all right, well, we haven't gotten to that, so
No,
let's
we're,
not worry about it now.
Well, I mean, it's, and we have to check with Frank. If we adopt that,
Yeah,
then none of these things can be adopted.
We'll worry about that when we get to it, but let's not worry about it now.
but we're not
The issue
gonna,
today is, it should be 20 years. with-
we'll go with a home rule petition, we'll rewrite.
And I think the committee felt 30 was about right.
I'm pleased you didn't say 50.
I
Very
think
good.
the legislature would be pleased to.
And since it's 0%, the longer term really does save you money, not just cash.
It would, no question about it.
It's 1A.
Okay, any further comments or questions on this draft? Operating by consensus, so we'll assume that that's all right. Third one, which we'll give the balance of our time to the third one.
I hope we won't take as long as as I had anticipated it might take.
All right, this one is a presentation and discussion on proposed eco-toilet checkerboarding article.
Just ask a question about the one we just did.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, I have no problem with it,
Okay.
but will we also be addressing the financial aspects of betterments with respect to taxes and ratios and the amount spent and all that sort of stuff at some point?
We'll be looking at it. The selectmen have made it clear that they reserve unto themselves the right to set the betterments, and we're happy to have them have that option. But
They're elected.
It will be part of it. I think we'll have the town financial manager in to discuss the broad picture of what betterments are about and their meaning to the taxpayer and the ratepayer. But it won't be a decision of ours.
No,
Thanks.
it's amazing.
Matt and I are going to I'm going to do the first presentation, Matt's going to do a second presentation. And Matt has warned me, keep it short, my presentation. We don't need to do as much as is in here. I learned a lot, and I don't have to tell you everything I learned today. But I looked at first the article which was actually passed by majority vote in 2012. It's sitting there at the top. And voted by declared majority vote, quorum, so forth and so on.
Okay, could you tell everybody what you're looking at?
Okay, I'm looking at presentation notes for discussion at W4. I have that somewhere.
You're looking at town meeting article from
Got it, got it.
2012.
Monroe, 82913.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at now. Town meeting passed something which said, that the Water Quality Management Committee could pursue exemptions from further sewer connection fees for Falmouth residents that volunteer to enter the town's eco-toilet demonstration project as part of the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan under the authority granted by MGL Chapter 83, Section 1B. That's what has been adopted at this point by the town. That suggests that, to me, that if we, that Article 39 allows us to recommend acceptance of Section 1A, which actually contains Section 1B. We have to ask the question, the first question we have to ask is, would Article 39 allow us to pursue a separate checkerboarding law instead of doing this? And the second question is, do we have to accept 1B according to this law? That's really the same question. Do we have to accept 1B? If we don't decide to do that, could we pursue a separate checkerboarding law instead? And I spent a lot of my time trying to figure out what 1A and 1B actually said. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing tonight. You can read what I put out and you can understand it. But basically, I'll read what Frank Duffy told me, and we talked last week. He said that 1A is a local option statute. It must be accepted as is by a majority vote of the town meeting. It cannot be amended or modified in any way, as Jerry was just pointing out. Before you can pass it, you have to have DEP has to approve a CWMP. If that doesn't occur before November town meeting approval cannot proceed until April town meeting. So that's the situation we're in. If we decide that we want to go in the direction of accepting 1A, which includes 1B and 1C, 1D through 1H.
Correct. If it helps you, there is no possibility that we will have an approved CWMP by November.
That's what I told Frank. Frank said, if we want to, we can draft the necessary articles, we can put them in the town meeting and simply withdraw them at that time, if we want to.
Or not put them at all.
Or not put them in at all, we can do either one. So that's simple enough. Okay, there is,
Okay, if you want to take questions while you're going.
yeah, I'll be glad to, no.
Also, aren't a lot of your demonstration alternative toilets in non-CWMP areas? Does that matter?
That doesn't matter for the purposes of what we're doing here. But let me go forward, because that'll come. That question comes up later. Section 1B is the relevant section, says three things, and I'm not going to go into any detail on it. It says everybody has to connect if the land if the land on which your property is within the CWMP area, by which they mean it's a nitrogen sensitive area. Basically, that's what they mean. It's a nitrogen sensitive area which the CWMP is putting a sewer in. If it's within that area, you have to connect, period. Then they go and say that, the second thing they say is, whether your property is within that approved area or not, if it's on the sewer line, if it's a failed septic system, you must connect to the sewer, unless you can prove either one of two things. Either a regular, unless you can build a regular system, or unless you can put an enhanced treatment system under remedial use, can cure the problem. And in that case, this is the only case in which, if your enhanced remedial treatment system under remedial use can cure the problem, then you go to the section down below that, which says the town may allow a property owner using an enhanced treatment system under remedial use to opt out if the town implements an inspection and monitoring plan adopted by the Board of Health and submitted to DEP for approval. The town meeting need not approve that plan. So that you're sitting, there are maybe a few people who have or who can have an enhanced treatment system under remedial use in the case where their septic system has failed, and I also want to ask the question, in the case that their septic system didn't fail, if they have it on the property, they should be able to they should be able to opt out of the system. Now,
That's not what this says.
what?
That's not what this says.
It says if they have enhanced remedial use, just,
It has to be enhanced remedial.
it has to be enhanced.
You can't have a failure based on nitrogen right now. And it's, remedial use is as defined in Title V, as we found out.
Yes, yes.
I think you're given the idea that all someone has to do is upgrade the Title V system, they don't have to tie into the sewer. That's not true.
I didn't give that idea.
Oh, that's right.
I'm not gonna go into detail on
No.
that, but I didn't give that idea.
No.
If by some chance, in some town, somewhere where you put this, that the sewer included more area than just the nitrogen sensitive area, those people outside the area would have somewhat different rules than the people in the nitrogen sensitive area. We don't need to worry about that, because nobody's gonna be outside the nitrogen sensitive area in Falmouth. So let's forget that.
And nitrogen sensitive area is a very strong legalistic term under Title V.
Yes, I understand.
But it's, we're not gonna declare anything as a nitrogen sensitive area. The DEP has to do it based on request by the Board of Health, I believe. It makes perfect sense that we're in the nitrogen sensitive area, but in terms of the statutory language, it's important to understand the definitions that the bureaucrats put in there.
Okay. What they say in that in section 1B is, they say specifically in the wording, and 1B, by the way, is on the last page here. It says, you have to connect only if the land in question is within the area identified in the Department of Environmental Protection approved CWMP. It has been specifically identified in the plan as requiring wastewater collection and treatment for flows in existence on said properties at the time of adoption of this act, in order to protect surface waters or drinking water resources from the effects of nitrogen enrichment.
Correct.
When I use nitrogen sensitive area, I'm using it to refer to that.
Okay, just for the audience, that
Yeah,
it makes perfect sense that this is a sensitive area, but it's,
I'm using it only in that sense. I'm not using it in the technical sense in which it is defined. I don't even know how it's defined.
Okay, so,
Perhaps, should I jump in at this point? This is traditionally how you would adopt checkerboarding, okay? And it's not designed for what we want to do, okay? We want something that's going to enable composting toilets, urine diverting toilets, so-called eco toilets. That's not included in this, okay? It also requires that you wait for your CWMP to be passed. That's going to be problematic for what we're trying to do for the demonstration project. So what we're proposing is that we write our own home rule petition that specifies eco toilets, what they are, and also just ignores the CWMP, and we get this passed with 62 toilets, or 62 installations, let's say, for the benefit of the demonstration project. And hopefully we can do that. You can submit a home rule petition, as Eric knows, anytime. You don't have to wait for the new session. So we could do that right away versus trying to change this other thing, which would be a real nightmare. So the only problem is we came to this conclusion recently, very recently, so we haven't had time to write the new article and give you a draft. So, but we certainly can do that before town meeting, and all we need is a placeholder again, if we can do that, or use this language I hesitate to even use this language.
This 1A and 1B is not a,
No, it's,
You're outside of this, so that's the beauty of this one versus the other one.
Right.
You're
Right.
not amending this at all.
No.
Eco toilets
they are.
aren't included in this.
right.
So this is clearly outside
A
of
new
that.
thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I get two points. First of all, this business of 62, you're mixing apples and oranges. I know you want 62 for your demonstration projects, so that George and the DEP can come back and approve these things for statewide use. But that's a separate issue from whether or not someone who's within the sewer service area, who has something like this in his house, doesn't have to hook up to the sewer. The number 62 and that question.
Yeah, it's arbitrary.
But the other piece is, George and the DEP haven't come to the conclusion that these things, in fact, reduce nitrogen sufficiently to be a substitute for being on the sewer. And in the absence of that finding, aren't you a little bit ahead of yourself?
Well, no, that's why you want the limitation. That's why you want to limit the number of installations.
Yeah, but you're basically saying, okay, suppose 62 people in this sewer service area all decided they wanted to take you up on this and install their eco toilets and not hook up to the sewer. And then the study goes forth, it comes back and says, hey, this only reduces 75%. Still leaves 25%. These things ain't making it. We've just given away 62 free installations that they don't have to pay for, even though they are still contributing to the nitrogen problem.
But, we can argue, how much nitrogen they're going to remove now,
It
but,
would be an argument when George is done.
well, I understand that. I understand that, but you still want to get people into this demonstration project so you have a good sample. And that will give you a better understanding of what the nitrogen removal is.
Right, no, I can see you want to add
I
volunteers.
think what he's saying is you don't need to put the 62. The operative thing is these have to be determined ideally to be equivalent, enhanced. Eventually, George is going to say, you put an eco toilet in, you get this much nitrogen credit. And if that nitrogen credit is sufficient when looked at all the other nitrogen credits in the watershed, you don't have to tie in. You don't have to pay the betterment too.
Well, again, you're talking 62 out of possibly 7,000.
Times 10,000.
We-
You're talking about the whole town, you're talking about the sewer service area.
This sewer service area.
That's 1,500 houses.
1,500 houses.
In this sewer service area.
Well,
We're talking about
yeah,
62.
but it's a potential of,
Okay, but the
of
whole
7,000.
town- Yeah,
You might not have 62 vacant lots. Oh, it says.
And I think George would, in fact, when we brought this the first time, he argued the same thing, that 62 is really a small number in the scheme of things, and the amount of nitrogen coming out of them is negligible.
Think of the amount of money that some people say the town's losing, not the amount, what you're saying, the amount of money the town could save if these things prove to be a good alternative to sewers. The immediate thing is, let's say the betterment's $10,000. You've just given away $500,000.
And quite possibly not remove all that nitrogen.
And be a detriment to the area. Now, if what you're saying is true, and it's better than 3, or better than, whatever better than is, then I think it's a lot easier to say, now, those, and if there's an IA system down the road, they can do it. There's a number of people that may be allowed to opt out under this other section on checkerboarding. You're just putting eco toilets now on equal terms with alternative systems, assuming eco toilets become acceptable.
I think we're mixing apples and oranges, I really do. I think we're talking about two completely different questions.
Yeah.
One is the question, is an area of the town going to be a place where eco toilets can be used as one of the tools to reduce nitrogen? Is a whole area of the town going to be one of the places where it can be used? If an area is such that you cannot reduce nitrogen enough by putting in of a variety of different things, like eco toilets and oysters and whatever it happens to be. If you can't reduce nitrogen enough with all of those tools, then we're going to have to say, well, some of the nitrogen is going to have to be taken out with sewers. And we're going to have to think about that. But that's looking at the whole area. And we've been looking at the eco toilet project as a project which determines for the whole town, spread over the whole town, 62 houses which could adopt eco toilets. And some of them will be in nitrogen sensitive areas, in areas where we need to reduce nitrogen, some will not, some will be in areas where possibly in the future we will have to sewer, and some will be not in areas where possibly we will have to sewer. But I think George from the beginning said, as Matt said, we don't need to worry very much if we're taking a little bit of money or something away from an area like Little Pond, because not many people in Little Pond are going to adopt this.
Right. I mean, out of those 1,500, how many
are going to adopt it?
Question.
will be of the 62?
If they're not equivalent, let's say the eco toilets, they're good, but they don't get to a level that I mean, now you're saying other people in the area, we have to sewer another home because the eco toilet people have been exempted.
Wayne, did I just hear you say that not many people in the Little Pond area are ever going to use eco toilets?
Well, they won't.
If-
They probably won't sign up for the
They
demonstration
won't sign up for the
project.
If they are, if at some
To take
future
one of those
time we were to
62.
discover, at some future time we will discover that oysters can take a lot out, everything else. The Little Pond doesn't need all the sewering it's gonna get. We may want to scale back the sewering we do. But that's in the future, that's completely in
Can
the
I
future.
jump in just a
Yeah.
second?
Yeah.
I think what Matt and Lynn are trying to say is, we're in the process of doing an experiment. We're trying to see if these eco toilets work.
Exactly.
And as part of that experiment, we're trying to induce people to
Exactly.
sign up. And if we look at the areas now, which we've just included in our sewer bylaw, it's the middle of Falmouth, Woods Hole, New Silver Beach, and the Little Pond service area. And Sia can probably calculate how many residents that is at the moment. But, and so only some small fraction of that 62 probably will fall into those sewer service
Well,
areas.
all of them are already on the sewer,
Except for Little Pond.
which hasn't been built, but.
And so eco
All the
toilets
others are already on the sewer. They won't be
eco
participating.
toilets can't go into the others anyway.
But I guess what I'm saying is that it's, as part of this experiment, it's probably worth us giving away a little something in order to entice people to take part in that experiment. So in other words, if we end up with 15 of these eco toilets in the Little Pond sewer surface area, in the scheme of the 1,500 that we're going to include, it's a price worth paying if we can get some reasonable data.
Right.
And,
And-
I think the committee has supported.
Well, I also want to add that you do have this Article 39 that passed in town meeting 2012, which was unanimous. In,
Ask the selectmen to ask us to look at it, which is what we're doing.
well, it was fairly specific. If you read it, by declared majority vote, quorum being present, town voted to request the Board of Selectmen, acting through the Water Quality Management Committee, pursue exemptions from future sewer connection fees for Falmouth residents that volunteered to enter town's eco-toilet demonstration project as part of the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan.
It's
But,
under the authority granted of Chapter 83, we already said we're outside
well,
of 83.
I mean,
Well,
but if you want me to go to town meeting with my own article, I'll get it through. I'll get it through.
I was wondering whether we
Yeah,
had.
okay. I don't think we're at that stage.
I hope not.
When that went before town meeting, I interpreted the word, I don't know, it's obviously a matter of opinion, what other people thought, but I interpreted the word pursue to mean to see if it's practical in every way. I mean, it left open the possibility you might find something which would say, whoa, there's no way you can do this because blah, blah, blah. And that's what we're talking about now. I mean, I like the idea of incentivizing people to enter the experiment, but we have to make sure there are no bad loopholes.
If the
So does
experiment fails, are they allowed to not connect them?
Yeah,
Yes.
yes, they're allowed to not connect.
I think that should be clearly stated. I think that might be debatable. Why not INA systems? If they fail, people shouldn't connect.
Well, no one's advocating for an ASIS.
Well, that's true, very good. Let's take back to
Let's put
this.
that one on.
Also, the question is not whether the eco-toilet fails, but whether they fail to be accepted as part of the program.
Well, that's what I meant by that, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. You know, the other piece to keep in mind, if the town meeting and the voters agree to proceed with actually sewering this area, there won't be anything to connect it for the next 5 years at the soonest. I mean, it takes a long time to actually.
Oh, that's true.
So you're talking to people now saying, here's an incentive for you. 5 years from now, if the town goes ahead with this, you may not have to hook up, or you won't.
And you may have some of those people wanting to hook up,
But,
get rid of their composting toilet at the end, after 5 years. I mean, you know,
well, you think a home rule petition's a vehicle?
Yeah.
I do.
Okay, yeah.
I do.
You guys want to draft one up for us?
Yeah.
I think it has to be on rule too. I think we all agree
Yeah,
on that.
yeah, because any other route, we can't go because.
Right.
see, but if you
It's too cumbersome, the other language.
I think that, we came to that
So
conclusion.
it's a home rule petition, we'll be back in a week.
And this is a
I'm
really,
available, C is available, your guys are.
this is a nice format. You just take this out and put in what it is. This is great. This is wonderful.
In fact, why can't we just add it to your list there?
This,
You have it electronically, you can.
No, you're not adding it to this list, you can add.
You almost bet.
give us a look, can we take out the memo?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
You can file your own, as you just pointed out, you can get it passed with no problem.
Yeah?
The only question I would like to ask is this. Is there any problem, first of all, do we, as I read through this, I asked myself, why is section 1A in there anyway? Why did they put section 1A in there? Do
God
we have
knows.
any other advantages aside from checkerboarding possibilities if we adopt 1A? Do we have to adopt 1A for any reason
You
whatsoever?
don't have to adopt one. It gives the town local options, and we haven't gone down through all of them right
No,
now.
we really haven't.
One of the things I was pointing out that I still think is a bust, you should get back to Frank on, this exempts 1H. This is a modification to 1H. It says up to 50 years.
If
It
we-
does.
If we adopt 1A,
If we adopt it, 1A in sequence.
yeah, and, yeah, if we adopt it, well, 1A, everybody says 1A
It's the whole thing,
is
section
the whole
10.
thing.
If Ron were here, he would tell you about why 50 years wasn't a good idea.
Oh, I'm not, but it's but if we adopted it, okay, it allows you up to 50 years.
Yeah.
What you're doing, if this passes, you're telling town meeting, we can no longer, we don't want section 10. If that's what the committee wants, that's fine. I'll check with Frank, because that's the way I read this.
I was asking the question, why do we need it? What-
Well, we don't. We're not even gonna bring it up.
Yeah,
But you're,
You have to read it or want it, so why are we still going to talk
I
about
thought-
This will throw it under the bus. So
it? It is something we haven't adopted.
it will permanently throw it, all I'm saying is we have to
Well,
tell.
no, if we give ourselves a 30-year option, and later on we decide to adopt that, which has a 50-year option, then we have two options.
I think it's just a legal question whether we can modify this.
This is an option, we're not modifying anything, this just says you get an option. of
Well, in
30.
principle, if there was some overwhelming reason, you could,
Yeah.
whatever the word is, de-legislate
Oh,
this.
okay, that's true.
No, we can figure this out.
Yeah.
For an act that we haven't even thought about adopting, it's not a problem.
yeah.
I'm glad, I thought we had to adopt.
No, we don't have to.
Okay, good, fine.
That's great.
Well, at some point, there was something we had to help you out, but I think you've got a better route.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Good.
Okay, anything further on the proposed eco toilet article? As I say, see you, myself, and Jerry, and anybody else who wants
Thanks.
to jump in, will be around for the next week. But we gotta have something back next week, it's 1 day shy of the deadline.
All right, thanks.
Next item on the agenda, report on the PAL survey of Site 7.
It's completed. We haven't got it yet. The recommendations,
Tell people what PAL is.
well,
I think it's the police athletic league.
it's the study group to do the archaeological survey for Site 7. It was required for a number of reasons. We hired a special consultant to do it. They went out and did it, dug up various portions, and according to our consultants, the PAL report is in. They haven't given it to us yet, but the conclusion is there's nothing of historic significance within Site 7. So Site 7 is clean for historic purposes.
Okay.
And what we just passed around is an email to that effect.
Recommending no additional archaeological
Wow.
investigations. Okay. Further discussion, questions, comments?
I thought I got one of these.
Okay, progress report and schedule for the PRB project.
Excuse me, 1 second. Did we skip over 4?
I just did.
We just did, distribution of the, right, final ecological report. That went out
Discussion.
electronically. Discussion, yes, okay, yes. Okay, good point. See, the report was commented on in the last meeting by Ron, who found a discrepancy in some of the numbers, and they were sent back to PhD, who sent them back to Ecologic, who crunched the numbers again and came up with a slightly different result. See that?
I don't know, I don't know, right in front of me. Ron's observation is that the concentration of phosphorus in, that we used, or that Ecologic used in their original calculation was higher than what is really the phosphorus coming out of the wastewater treatment facility. So the original report that you all got a copy of had a number of 3.7 milligrams per liter of phosphorus. And Ron pointed out from some analysis he'd done and research, and the numbers
Amy
from
did.
Amy, that it's actually 2.7. And so when they recalculated, instead of there being an absorption of 75 years of phosphorus, it's now 106 years. So it's over 100 years of binding capacity in the soils for phosphorus. Copper Pond is not going to see phosphorus for over 100 years if there is no treatment of additional phosphorus at the wastewater treatment facility beyond what's being done right now. And that's the
I didn't think Jerry would live that long.
I hope to be retired then.
We know if you retired before that. Any other comments on the ecological report? We hope you retire your email before then.
I think it's fixed. It's an email server issue.
How many thousands
Nothing worse than waking up in the morning and getting 144 emails from Jerry,
from Jerry? I know.
all saying the same thing.
Well, that's what you read before, you delete before reading.
Oh, God.
Progress report and schedule for PRB projects. All right, Virginia and myself and the CDM Smith group has been following along in their contractual obligations to look at these different sites. They're coming back again right after Labor Day with some additional observations. So far, the observations have been that everything we told them is true, and everything that we knew about what we would have to do is true. The 3 sites on the east side of town that are still being in contention. One is the Great Harbor site. It's a wonderful site for a couple of reasons, and not so wonderful for another. The wonderful reason is it has a wonderful parallel road, parallel to the water body, with not a particularly bunch of trees or gardens or anything else in the way.
no houses on there.
And no houses on there, so it's.
And one owner.
And one owner.
And one on it.
Okay, now it's a private road, not public, but the owner is the Great Harbor Association, and they've suggested they're willing to cooperate in this
Great.
effort. The downside is there are not any wells in place upstream to figure out what's coming toward the water. And our consultant would be happy to put some in for $12,000, and I said hold off on that thought. But that's where we are with that one. The other 2 are in Seacoast Shores. They looked at 2 and there are differences in them. They're both parallel roads on the downstream side, which is good. One's publicly owned, one is not publicly owned. One has trees and bushes and gardens, one does not have so much. One is higher up, it's like 30 feet down to the water table, the other one is lower, not so much. What we're waiting for now is there may be some wells in place or about to be put in place upstream of one or both or near these sites. The Cape Cod Commission put them in 20 years ago or something, and they found them again. So those may be useful. And the USGS and the EPA are doing a project where they're putting them in
Great.
now
Great.
in Seacoast. So we're going to wait and see where these upstream well sites are, because obviously having a free well site is better than paying someone to do it. And we still, I think, we're going to look at these sites. Your first instinct is, well, let's go with the easy one. But unless you know that all of Seacoast is going to be easy, it's not teaching you too much just to do one easy one. On the other hand, if you do a hard one, you know all the troubles you're going to run into, and it might give you a better fix on what it would cost to do the whole peninsula if that's where you went. So we have to think about this a little bit before we actually pick one or the other to go ahead with. But the premise here is we'll go forward with one in West Falmouth and one out of these three in the eastern part of town, with town meetings vote to spend the money, which obviously has not occurred yet.
At first, 12,000 sounds like a lot of money, but compared to the differences in costs of putting in the trenches and everything, isn't it rather small? Or at least, I mean, you want to do a total cost.
It's a good point.
comparison.
I mean, it could, yeah.
We'll know by Wednesday, because they're gonna come in with the estimated costs for
But I mean,
the three
the
sites.
bottom line is the bottom line, it's the sum of all the costs.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they were thinking we should add 12,000 to their already generous contract.
Well, but you have to pay, of course you can maybe get bids of 5,000 from somebody else, but I'm just saying, you don't want to just pick one line item cost out and say, ooh, $12,000, you want to look at the total for the project, even if it shows the other.
I don't think we're saying that.
This is an extra, I guess. You already have the contract.
Yeah, our suggestion was, why don't we reduce some of the other things you're doing in this contract and we'll take the 12. Remember, they started out, they were going to extensively look at 4, and now we're down to 3. Well, they thought that 12,000, they needed 12,000 in addition to that. And we're thinking this is a little bit.
But I mean, when you're comparing,
Yeah.
you were taking it as a way to compare site A and site B.
Mhm.
And I'm saying, not
I
the
think
only
it's
cost, it's the
status of
cost
all
of
the
the digging.
things. I interpret you just giving an honest status of it without
Sure,
necessarily.
yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
making
yeah.
value judgments, I'm just kind of bringing you up to date as to
Okay.
what the issues are and where it is in the process.
And they all capture about the same number of houses as Waste Street. So that was something that we, in terms of the density of development for one stretch versus another, they're all about the same.
Now, are they developing sort of crude price ranges for each of these?
That's in the
Yes.
contract, yeah.
That's what we hope to have.
That's what we're
My
paying.
intuition is that if we gotta go down 30 feet to the water table,
It's not
we're in
worth it.
serious difficulty.
I think a lot of people have made that observation.
But before we make the decision, we should look at Seacoast, and if 3/4 of Seacoast is 30 feet or more, that tells you something about the prospects of doing anything in Seacoast.
But it doesn't eliminate the idea that you can still do PIBs in selected hotspots. Like, that's almost what we're doing in West Falmouth. We're trying to intercept a plume right at the centroid of the plume.
Right.
So that may be
Right.
the only thing we have to do if it works out well.
Mm.
The demonstration may be the only thing for that.
Go ahead.
When you're assessing which one you should do, it's not just cost alone, but how much can you learn from each one?
Exactly,
Correct.
And
exactly.
can you figure out a rating system, learn 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5,
Right.
and look at that?
Right, if we can do one at Great Harbors, but it's the only place in town where that particular set of circumstances exists,
Right.
what good does it do us? So yeah, we want some replicability in this.
Sure.
To see what happens. So that's where that's going. That's good. Progress report on Oyster Pond CWMP, distribute the needs assessment, everybody has the needs assessment? Steve, got a progress report? He's been meeting diligently with these people.
As long as everyone has this, we were quite pleased with the work that Wright Pierce did. We'd be interested to have you all read it and see if you think you're pleased. And I guess there will be a meeting of this committee at some point in the future, decided by Eric, there's no big hurry, to discuss it and have Ed Leonard and Wright Pierce
Right.
present.
Yeah, we thought this meeting and next meeting were pretty well taken up with town meeting stuff, but after that, we could bring them on.
We don't want to put it off too far.
No. Sure. Any comments or questions on Mr. Pond? Okay.
We made a presentation at the annual meeting, remember? At the annual meeting, there was an update by Wendy, the Oyster Pond, CWMP at the sea level rise conference.
Okay.
Right, I mean, she wasn't in a position to say anything about this.
No, but she gave a good update of
Yeah.
where it would work.
Yes.
Discussion of GHD request for guidance on Bourne's Pond Bridge fishing platform location. If we put a bridge in Bourne's Pond and over the widened inlet, the state access board people have agreed to pay for a fishing bridge.
Correct.
Yeah,
That's good.
and the question became, which side of the bridge would you like it to be on? And this came from GHD, who was doing the bridge design, and the answer seems to be the north side.
Oh.
Seems to be.
Where is it on the Green Pond Bridge?
South side.
The south side of the Green Pond Bridge, and the reason for the north side was,
There were a couple of reasons. The best fishing is on the north side of the bridge, where the water flows out into Bourne's Pond on the flood tide. The fish, striped bass, fluke, scup, and blues, wait in the pond for bait fish to wash in with the flood tide. It's observed that people fish. I actually went down there day before yesterday, and people seem to be on the north side, and so this is just from people that fish the area when flood tide's going.
Well, that's true. There's such a long exit south of the bridge
Right.
that it's moving too fast to really fish. So that makes sense.
That makes sense that it's the north side.
Yeah.
I think we should at least recommend it on side, but when they get into the design and Division of Marine Fisheries, it might get adjusted.
sure, and they may have some specific suggestions for making it easier to
Yeah.
put it on.
The only downside of the north side, and I don't think it's a big downside, is people cross the street. I mean, I agree on the south side, it doesn't make sense, but the parking is on the south side.
That's true, so they would have to cross.
They're going to cross the street
No,
anyway. Yeah.
For people that say, didn't you know
Yeah.
about parking, you just want to bring it up.
Yeah, they go over there shellfishing too, Jer. So it's a
We
lot
gotta
of.
put it where the fish are.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Well, there's good fishing,
Apparently there is. I mean, really? Stripers?
if we don't change
All right. Update and discussion on Cape Cod Commission 208 planning process. Well, let's start with that one.
Wait, distributed, okay, okay.
Yeah, this is three pieces, I guess.
Well, number 9, did we do number
Did
9?
we didn't do number 9. Distribute draft program evaluation form. They were all emailed out. Everybody saw them. It's basically the wish list of everything that we could possibly ever ask for SRF money for. If you don't put it on the list, you're not on their list. So in went everything.
Everything we've approved
Everything
so
we've
far.
talked about, everything the selectmen have approved. Some of it may never happen, but it's on the list, and it had to be on the list if we were gonna be in the next funding cycle. So, out it went. Comments or questions on that? Cape Cod Commission 208 planning process. A couple of them came down to meet with town manager and Heather and a financial person and a couple of others a couple of weeks ago. And they laid out what they're planning. This 208 planning process, there's been a major lawsuit and a few other things around this. The lawsuit is now dismissed, thanks to the town of Falmouth and a few other people sticking their noses in. But out of it came the idea that the 208 plan, which is a plan that is federally and state required for every region in the state. So what are you gonna do about wastewater? Well, the last time this was done on Cape Cod was 1978. The Cape Cod Planning and Economic Development Commission did that. And the Cape Cod Commission for the last 35 years has not updated it, even though it's a job. So, one of the items in this lawsuit was pointing that out, that it hadn't been updated and that the feds and the state should have made it be updated. And, well, short answer is it is now being updated thanks to the legislature sending $3.5 million to the Cape Cod Commission to update it. So they came to see the town to tell us what their timetable was and what their plans were, and to hear what our timetable was and our plans were, which they heard. And I think we've come to a meeting of the minds as to, because obviously they like what Falmouth's doing. They don't want to impede it in any way. We agree with that sentiment.
Get out of the way.
And so the town made it clear that all of us are trying to make something happen here, and we do not want to get in each other's way. So they've now created a couple of areas. Their premise here is town lines are obsolete and that all this planning should be done according to watersheds. So they have a couple of watershed lines. The Mashpee, Wacoit Bay,
Papaneset.
Wacoit, Papaneset will be considered an area, and they will be an area. Everything on the west coast, from Finney's Harbor down to Quistit Harbor, will be considered one area. And the areas that we are currently involved with our CWMP, except for Wacoit Bay, all of the water bodies on the southeastern coast of Falmouth and West Falmouth Harbor will be considered one area. And that one area they will defer to our efforts on, since the town has already moved substantially ahead on that one. So that's the division, and we're okay with that. Their timing is, they're doing it now. They're having these meetings, they're having scoping sessions, they're having meetings with stakeholders, they're having all this stuff in a fairly short time frame because they're committed to a short time frame. So between now and November, December, they're gonna be doing all of that. And then they won't be coming out with their final piece until June. So that works all right with us because our CWMP will presumably be going up to the state by the end of September or sooner. And our town meeting will be acting in November and our voters in April and May. So we won't be stepping on each other's feet. At least that's their time frame and our time frame. They're having these meetings all over the place. They're inviting stakeholders, meaning anybody who has an interest in attending these meetings and coming to be a stakeholder. We're all urged to do so. Many people will go without being urged, but I think we, to the extent we can, we all ought to. I know we have a lot to do ourselves, but.
I'll say a couple of words about the
Sure.
most recent meeting.
Yeah, you went to one.
I went to the meeting this week. When was it? Tuesday. I went to the meeting Tuesday, and you were there too, at Tuesday. And so was Virginia. And I was disappointed that there weren't more people there. They haven't been. I told what's her name?
Patty?
Not Patty.
Aaron.
Aaron. I told Aaron afterward. You need to get better publicity for these things somehow, so that more people are there. They got 10 people who were apart from the, or maybe 11 people, apart from the people who were there to present. But on the other hand, it was a good meeting in the sense that there was actually good dialogue. And I learned a couple of things which were useful. I learned one thing, for example, that they say they are truly interested, Cape-wide, in trying to, whatever they have said in the past, they're trying to limit the amount of sewering that they're doing. They want to keep as many, on Cape Cod as a whole, they want to keep as many septic systems in operation as possible. That's just sort of general. In answer to the people who said that, well, you know, it looks like when you look at your charts, you're really talking only about sewering still, but they claim that that's not what they're doing. But so there was a fairly good I enjoyed the meeting and I got something out of it. But they had very few people there. Aaron told me that another meeting, there were only 6 people there,
Wellesley.
roughly. So they're not doing well with getting people to the meetings.
Well, I have news for you. It's August.
Yes, right, yeah, right,
It's
exactly,
August on Cape Cod.
yeah.
Only a few workaholics with it.
This committee was smart enough not to meet during most of the month of August, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, okay.
And obviously they weren't concerned about that, and that's why they get 6 people to a meeting.
I don't know who is going to be on the Wacoit Bay, Mashpee meeting. I'm going to be there.
Good, good.
I don't know who else is going to be there. Are you going to be there?
I don't know, I think Virginia, I mean, there's a couple other things. Virginia's on the advisory committee.
Yes.
I'm on the municipal technical advisory committee for alternatives, and then there's an academic advisory committee for alternatives. I think Chris Neal is on it, a couple of other people. I heard the names, but I can't remember.
Sure.
I understood you're saying that they'll stay out of the south coast except for Wacoit because that's all within Falmouth. And I understand that they won't stay out of Wacoit Bay because that's in 2 jurisdictions. But then I was confused when you got to the west coast. Why wouldn't it be the same sort of thing, that all the west coast would be ours except whatever the one is at the border with Bourne?
But in their view, the whole watershed goes all the way up to the canal. They don't think it stops at the Bourne line.
But
They're
there's
concerned.
these maps.
But we haven't done anything in those.
So yeah, we're not pursuing the west
We
side.
haven't done anything there, and Bourne certainly hasn't done anything there. So it's sort of virgin territory, but
Oh, so it's for that reason rather than where they're actually a watershed.
Right, their premise is, all the ponds on the west coast, or water bodies on the west coast have a common theme, which is they're all part of the water that comes down from
Sagamore Lands.
Sagamore Lands, and therefore they should all be talking about things together.
And nobody's done anything yet, so they want to
Right.
encourage us to do
Doesn't
something.
the Sagamore Lands feed the south coast too?
Yeah, sure.
Well, but if that one's different because we've moved ahead on that one.
Yeah, so it's the political.
Oh, was it?
It's not-
It's
it's
not
not
The
the
planning reason, you know, before I already put done homework.
Oh, you're right, yeah, I think the town was very insistent, and the commission was very cognizant of the fact the town has moved ahead on these areas, and they weren't about to ask us to reinvent the wheel or to revisit the wheel.
They started out telling us that we had to cooperate with them in the area we've done so much. And we said, no, we don't need to.
Exactly right. No, I think, so if everybody sticks to that, I think we'll be all right.
I think the issue is too, they've hired consultants that are on a time frame. Right, they have to produce something and,
The Consensus Building Institute, if you remember that?
oh yeah,
Yes.
The state gave them the deadline. not the-
Yeah, the state did.
the non-consensus building institute.
I can't wait to see how the Consensus Building Institute does with Bourne.
On TV.
Only in Falmouth. The consensus in Bourne is if you ignore the whole thing, maybe it'll go away.
Consensus in Bourne.
Yeah, 2-0, right?
All right, never mind. The other thing that the commission is pursuing is a fertilizer control bylaw. They had a meeting on this subject last week. 75 people attended. 70 of them hated the idea. And they're discovering it's a harder hot potato to handle than maybe they thought it was going to be.
Ah,
We don't have to worry about that since Falmouth has its own bylaw in place, and we're happy with it. But they will discover consensus building is also hard in the fertilizer business.
Yep.
We made it look easy.
All right. Other reports from committee and staff.
cheated.
Anybody have anything? We did send around a letter that was sent by 6 citizens, including Ron and Matt, to the selectmen, suggesting there hadn't been enough public discussion and public input opportunities on these matters. And I would only point out that at least 4 of the people who signed the letter commented on the CWMP at great length and had their comments answered in the draft CWP that we came back with. They've been among the best attendees at all of our meetings. And if anybody in town has had an opportunity and has exercised the opportunity to be heard on this subject, it is those 4 people.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to argue your point. It's well taken, but we're just concerned about the rest of the town. And there haven't been any times where we've actually said to the public, take a look. Here it is. Come to East Falmouth Elementary, and we'll talk about it. We'll listen to your stuff. I mean, it's just sort of something you would do that we haven't done. I think you want to go overboard in trying to make everybody aware that it's out there. Of course, it was the summer, not the greatest time to do it, but we're coming into the fall. We have plenty of time to try to.
There is a required public hearing in this process. Well, the commission will have one, we know that. And I think there is another required one. When does that come up?
It will occur after we submit the plan and before the, you know what I'm gonna say? Go.
Yep, I got my speaker on.
Sure.
There is a public hearing required from Mass DEP, right? Is that what you were gonna say? After the plan is submitted, MEPA has a public hearing.
That's,
And MEPA has a public hearing.
and they jointly hold it with the Cape Cod.
And they hold it in conjunction with the Cape Cod Commission, so it's a joint meeting, and that happens after the submittal.
What has happened to the remarks which were made when you made the presentation to the selectmen? They said we ought to have a little bit of public hearings about this. Has anything been done about that? No.
They're waiting for the chairman to set a time.
Are they? Okay, so something's going forward there.
That's what they said. I don't control the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, well, it's up to them.
Right, it's up to them.
Oh, is it in the court?
We gave it to them on July 29th.
Okay.
It's up to them.
I'd like to make 2 general points about this. First of all, we're going to be asking for a lot of money next spring. I think we ought to be doing more than just meeting the minimum required public hearings. I think we ought to be doing more than that. And I don't know how, but I think we ought to be doing a good deal more than that to publicize what we're doing. And the second point I want to make is a more general idea that when you bring in the public, very often you have lots of people saying things that you didn't hear before. They may not want to hear, but it may be important to bring them out. I think in general that the danger of getting bad public publicity from too much public action is less than the danger of not learning what people are thinking about beforehand. That's just my general feeling. So I would urge us to, between now and the spring, to make a real effort to get more out about what we're doing and why.
I think the selectmen should do that, but I would argue that this committee has done more of it than given the last 2 years that we've been in existence. We had a hearing at the library, we had a town meeting, we had an election. In fact, since 2011, we've had 2 elections and 2 town meetings, and a town meeting in between, and a lot of newspaper publicity, more than any other topic in town,
Except the windmill.
windmills.
I think we got a lot of demonstration projects going on.
Yeah.
And until the selectmen say, this is our plan, which we think they're going to say, now we have something to dig into, and especially as people start saying, how much is gonna cost me? I think we can have newsletters. I think most of the questions of, what about the alternatives? And I think the general consensus is, for Little Pond, it's been determined conclusively that the area we're suing needs to be sued.
The real creativity would be figuring out how to get substantial numbers of people other than the usual suspects
Yes.
to come to the meeting.
Mhm.
Because we and the usual suspects know what each other is thinking, and it doesn't add anything.
I remember the thing we had at the library, before the town meeting, we actually put an ad in the paper, and we contacted all the local civic associations. And what did we get, 30 people?
Yep.
With a front page story.
That was a really good meeting.
That was a
too.
pretty good meeting, and we got some good stuff out of that.
And it was pretty, we were giving an update on a number of different projects. I think it was pretty full in the Herman room.
Yeah.
So that was,
I'm not saying.
There's a lot of
we've done a
dialogue.
good job of
There-
publicity. I'm not saying that we haven't done a decent job of publicity, we have done. I'm just saying we should go
Sure.
and we should do more, if we can.
Well, at this point, it's in the selectmen's court. And obviously, if they wanna have a hearing and want us to be part of it, we will, and if they wanna have a hearing, whatever they wanna do, it's in their court.
But it also doesn't all have to be meetings. I mean, you and somebody from the enterprise had the idea of columns in the enterprise.
I think the enterprise got cold feet about the same time we did.
Oh.
It's just too much work.
We haven't explored the idea of newsletter, we haven't done on cable TV. I mean, we have a specific column on once a month or something like that Eric would be glad to do.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from any committee member or staff on anything that's been done or going on?
Oh, Jeff, I mean, I think some people know, the contract's gone out and signed for the upgrade to the treatment plant.
Okay,
But we are now reviewing the contract for Bourne's Pond. That's why this discussion was important, and the contract for the source service is somewhere right now.
it is all designed.
Yeah, this is all design money.
Gotcha,
It's,
gotcha, okay. All right, our schedule for the next week, it'll be 1 week from today, we'll be back here, but after that, let's look at the calendars and make sure that we're all on the same page. September 5th, September 19th. What happens in October? Third and 17th?
Are we going to meet the 19th?
September, yes.
Oh, no, yes, 19th, right. There's no holidays or anything in there.
What's the second October date?
Well, October,
The 17th.
October would be the 3rd and the 17th. And
About the
and the 31st, when is town meeting? Town meetings are on the 12th? Is it? I think. Okay, well, let's figure on the 31st.
is that Halloween?
Halloween?
I got
With a warm costume. Is it Halloween, the 31st?
Yes, 31st is Halloween.
All right, well, maybe do we want to hold off on committing ourselves to the 31st at this point? It's-
When is the town meeting, you said?
I think it's the 12th.
So can we contact Ed Leonard to see the third meeting from,
Yeah, we'll get a date, we'll get a couple of other things, but we'll have a date probably last of September or the 1st of October, somewhere in there.
He can't make the 19th
Of
September.
All right, so it would have to be the first one in October, I guess.
okay,
Okay.
if he can make.
Yeah, I'll just get back from well, that's a target date, subject to the committee.
Yeah.
Right. All right, discussion and vote on minutes of the prior meeting? Everybody ready?
Let me just confirm so the one in October is the 3rd?
3rd and
17th.
17th.
Okay.
And November 7th is a possibility, that's for the town meeting.
Right. I guess it would, should,
Look at November.
well, let's see now. Yeah, well, and that would be the first Thursday, so that would be all right. Okay. 21st might end up being Thanksgiving or something, so we don't wanna get too deep into November.
28th is Thanksgiving.
Oh, good. All right, well, we're pretty good then for a while. Comments on the minutes of the prior meeting? Motion to accept the
Motion to accept?
moved and seconded to accept the minutes of the prior meeting as presented, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
It's a beautiful thing.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you very much.